Guys, I'm sick. I'm sick again. I thought maybe it was something to do with the winter sales and discounts, but this time, it's different. This time, I think I've got free game fever. So many games are free on Steam, and I don't just mean free-to-play, multiplayer games funded by loot boxes, or clicker mobile ports funded by addicted whales. There are actually a lot of full, complete, single-player experiences for free. Sure, a lot of them are fairly short experiences, but there's definitely not a lack of quality experiences out there. Whether you're gaming on your nan's old accounting laptop running games at 13 FPS on all lower settings, or if you took out a small loan of $1 million to get a computer strong enough to run Minecraft with literally every shader installed, none of today's games will cost you another penny. What Never Was takes place in a little attic, which is graphically just enchanting. The neighbour's house is also graphically enchanting, just not quite in the same way. You play as a girl whose grandfather has sadly just passed away, and he's kindly left all of his stuff for us to sort through. What a legend! But, through a heartwarming recorded message and a gradually pieced together diary, it becomes apparent that there was much more to Grandad's adventurous side than we first thought. I'm not going to say any more about the story because the game is actually only around 30 minutes long. Yet in that time, What Never Was got me completely invested in the world inside and outside of this little English attic. Okay, not this outside world, but the one that we're told about through Grandpa's diary. Although it's short, the experience is still very satisfying and utterly charming to play through, even multiple times. The developer appears to be just a one-man team for the most part, which makes the quality here all the more impressive. Said developer's Twitter implies that a chapter 2 or even a full game is in progress. And given what Never Was has to offer as a completely free experience, my wallet is most definitely ready if there is another game to come in this exciting universe outside the attic. Again, not this outside. You know what I mean. In BirdGut, you play as a tiny creature who is too inept to be a worker bee, which is literally all it was born to do, who is then eaten by a bird and is immediately assessed to be too inept to even be useful as a piece of food. So if this game isn't an allegory for my life, I don't know what is. The rough, hand-drawn art style isn't exactly competing with artistic games like Katana Zero or Grease, but the visuals are unique and stylistic nonetheless, and they do accurately fit the tone of the game. That tone being that you, the player character, is a dumb, barely functioning bug-solving platforming puzzles inside the digestive tract of a bird, obviously. What else do you think a rough hand-drawn art style could represent? Challenging platformers can usually be grouped into one of two categories. The first is games which are hard because they are fast and precise, but in turn reward skillful players who take the time to master the game's mechanics. The second category is platformers which are difficult because the controls are spongy and floaty, where the game is less about precision and timing, and more about luck and perseverance. I think you can guess which category this game falls into. When we're talking about a decent length, around 2 hours to play through the full story start to finish, single player, free game with apparently just one person on the development team, it's hard to identify whether loose controls are the result of inexperience or if it's an intentional mechanic to guarantee that the player experiences the game's whimsical death animations and sounds at very, very regular intervals. Artistically unique and conceptually satisfying. Platformingly sometimes like trying to change direction on a slip and slide, but generally good enough. And absolutely value for money. Hello again, and welcome to the Rapid Fire Round. Today's category, Ninja Warrior Simulators. Obstacle courses, assault courses, linear platformers. Basically games where you run forward and jump over stuff. Neon Boost. It's neon and there's no boost mechanic, so we're already off to a questionable start. That being said, the mechanics which are here are pretty satisfying. You're sprinting, jumping, sliding, wall running, and rocket jumping through a classic sci-fi author's wet dream. Do classic sci-fi authors dream of electric games? I'm not sure if it's janky controls or just my inconsistent inputs, but every so often, a jump would shoot me much further than anticipated and open up a huge level skip, making for some pretty exciting speedy runs through the courses. Because of the general smooth controls, opportunities for shortcuts, and, at least in my opinion, a pretty cool aesthetic, Neon Boost gets a completely arbitrary score of 308 in the Ninja Warrior Simulator Speed Round. Frost Runner. It's got frost and it's got running. So already it's got some bonus points over Neon Boost. What? This is the default mouse sensitivity. This is like trying to find the sweet spot between hot and cold on a shower dial. No matter how small the movement I make, it just seems to make a huge difference. And according to the settings, this is the lowest sensitivity. Dare I see what happens when we turn it all the way up? Aside from the intense mouse movement, Frost Runner takes the familiar ingredients of running, jumping and sliding and throws in a little bit of grappling hook and secret collectible in each level. I couldn't place my finger on what, but something just doesn't feel quite as smooth in this game compared to others. But hey, if you're a fan of the genre, it's certainly worth giving it a go for the price. 260 made up points. 404 Sight. I'm not even going to try and give points for that name. But credit where credit is due, this game is by far the most innovative of the free Ninja Warrior simulators that I've played. First off, the game is one giant course divided into a series of checkpoints which effectively make up the individual courses. There's nothing super groundbreaking about that, but the running, sliding and jumping that we've come to know and love is supplemented by a unique ping ability, which reveals boost pads and jump pads to enhance your run, but also simultaneously reveals hazardous areas and motion slowing goop. The result is a game that requires you to constantly think about your route and how and when you're going to toggle your ping. The entire game is actually made to raise awareness and support for net neutrality. Now I made a promise to myself that I'm going to keep politics out of my videos, and I intend to keep that promise, even on issues as one-sided as this one. So all I'm going to say is goddammit save our internet! A little bit rough around the edges, but a cool concept. Decent game. 295 points. Last and maybe least is Gizmo. Theme-wise, the game is inspired by 90s 3D platformers, and we all know how successful they've been in recent years. The character you play is a cute and athletic robot, but the droids you're set out to destroy for one reason or another are frustratingly difficult to avoid, and they're often invulnerable to your KOs even when you're nowhere near their projectiles. And not only is the extreme default mouse sensitivity giving Frost Runner a run for its money, but Gizmo doesn't even have a mouse sensitivity setting! A moment of silence for that absolutely hilarious tornado joke from 2 minutes ago. The graphics and theming are honestly pretty well polished, and this game's short single level definitely wouldn't be out of place alongside games like Spyro the Dragon or Ratchet & Clank. And I have a huge respect to these developers who, according to the game's description, realise that they probably never finish this project. So, rather than go into an infinite early access and leech money out of hopeful gamers despite having no realistic intentions of ever finishing the game, they instead just tidied up the base mechanics and finished off the one level they were working on, and they gave it to the world to play for free. Huge bonus points for that decision, and a fair number of points for concept. A solid 250 completely irrelevant Casper points, which means Neon Boost takes the prize of a jar of fresh British air. Oh, deep in the corridors of my mind, and not very deep in the drafts folder on my computer, is a video I'll probably never finish called Every Puzzle Game is a Portal Game. It's based around the idea that so many puzzle games today take the concept of a disembodied voice guiding the player through a series of puzzle-based rooms where at some point it becomes apparent that the player was the experiment all along. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of the games following this formula or ones similar to it absolutely do enough to be unique games in their own right, but I can't help but feel that there'd be a whole bunch of games that wouldn't exist today if Portal hadn't come first. What I'm trying to say in a really roundabout way is if I ever was to make that video, then Gravitas would be front and center. Witty computer voice guiding you through the game?
Goodness, you're so cute. Look at your tiny blank face.
Check. A series of puzzle-based chambers? Check. In-game tools with ironically long names? Check. There's a bunch more checks further on throughout the story, which I'm not going to spoil for you, but believe me, they are there. All that being said, this game is bloody excellent. I play a bunch of puzzle games, from barely known indie games all the way up to the AAA big boys and all sorts in between, and there's a certain quality to good puzzles that is generally only seen in the big boys. A low quality puzzle often boils down to trial and error, where you just bang your head against the wall and never really get the satisfaction of solving it until you turn around and realise that something you did in game triggered the door at the end of the room. A high quality puzzle is the opposite. A puzzle which, without giving it away, gives you the tools to work out the solution in your head, and when you do, you giggle excitedly like a stalking hyena as you go on to solve the puzzle for real, knowing already that what you're about to do is the correct solution. And despite being pretty much as indie gets, Gravitas hits the nail on the head with this in pretty much every puzzle. I marathoned through this game like Success Kid on a jukebox bender, and I would have loved to have had more to play. The one time I did finish a puzzle by trial and error, the game even had an achievement to acknowledge that I hadn't solved it in the intended way. And that just shows me that these developers understand their game and their players very well. According to the game's description, Gravitas is nothing more but a well-executed student project. So unless Gaben swoops down from the heavens and takes them under his wing to build Portal 3 Gravity Edition, then this short but very fulfilling puzzle adventure might unfortunately be all we'll ever see of Gravitas. There's no shortage of free bangers on Steam, and I found most of these featured in this video through Steam's personalised discovery queue and the new experimental deep dive tool. Obviously, both of these tools are built by Steam to convince you to spend more money on Steam, but with this one easy trick, you can save all of your money. And that trick is, well, just look out for the free games when you're using these tools. If you start the deep dive tool with a game that's already free, then the recommended games are also more likely to be free, or at the very least, cheap as crisps. Another thing that I've noticed when searching for new games is that a huge number of games have actually got free demos available. But that video is in another castle. If you did like this video, please check out some of my other content linked on screen, and of course subscribe so you see when I upload my next video. I'm always trying to be better, so if you like this one, then you'll extra like the next one. Thank you everyone, and goodbye!